A couple of announcements before the next one starts. And the next one has got love and sex written all over it. The New Age Romantics, if you've seen your schedule. But I also want to tell you that we are in the left wing. And remember, there is something called the right wing. And that is right there. In fact, I'm told a lot of people are searching for it. So this is going to be my duty to tell you what other things are happening at the Lit Fest as we speak. So this is the left wing of the corner. If you just see where my hands are now pointed to, that is the right wing. There is Makkala Kuta happening, which is for children above 7 years of age. There's, under 7 years of age. And also you have the bookstore by Atta Galata. There's this side where the film screening is happening and a film in the Byari dialect. You might want to catch that as well. So I'm going to be now straight on moving to the New Age Romantics. That is the session we start. Do we have Durjoy and Preeti here already? Dear bestseller, where are you? Okay, so both of them are there. And let's now begin the introductions, shall we? Now, Durjoy first, because we don't exactly believe in ladies first and such cliches. The best-selling author of 11 novels. It's going to leave me breathless, and so pardon me. Of course I love you, now that you're rich. She broke up. I didn't. Oh yes, I'm single. You were my crush. If it's not forever, till the last breath, someone like you, and hold my hand. These are some of the titles he's written. All his novels have found prominence in so many bestseller lists and continue to feature in them. His books predominantly deal with subjects of love, relationships, disability, drug abuse, sexuality, and death. Also the co-founder of Grapevine India Publisher Private Limited. Let's put our hands together to welcome Durjoy Datta onto the stage. Keeping him company is someone who more than deserves to be here because she is India's highest selling woman writer. 6 bestsellers, in fact, to her credit. And these include Life is What You Make It, Tea for Two and a Piece of Cake, The Secret Wish List, The One You Cannot Have, and It Happens for a Reason. Now, her latest, which is Why We Love the Way We Do, is a non-fiction book. She has written for so many publications, and you could have also read her in Times of India and Reader's Digest. She's a columnist with the Financial Chronicle and has given several talks. Let's not waste a moment more, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome Preeti Shenoy onto this conversation. So it's now over to you, Preeti and Durjoy. How could I have not invited a dear friend? This is what happens when we have a conversation where you want everybody to just, come in right then. Well, we have Ravinder Singh, best-selling author, after having spent most of his life in Burla, a small town in Odisha. Ravinder is currently based in Gurgaon, has an MBA from the Indian School of Business. His 8-year-long IT career started with Infi and came to a happy ending at Microsoft, where he worked as a senior program manager. One fine day, he had an epiphany, and are we glad about that? That writing books is more interesting than writing project plans. He called it a day at work and took to full-time writing. Ravinder has also started a publishing venture which is called Black Ink to publish debut authors. So you know how to make complete use of Ravinder's presence at BLF. That is Ravinder Singh. Maybe please hear it for our third speaker. Moderating this conversation is Nandita Bose. Her latest work of fiction is Shadow and Soul. Her earlier books are If Walls Could Weep, The Perfume of Promise, and Tread Softly. Nandita holds a PhD in aesthetics and she's a fellow Bangalorean. She lives with her daughters and other animals. Over to you, Nandita.
Is it afternoon? Is it afternoon yet? Yes, it is. Good afternoon, Bangalore. Good afternoon. And may I have a show of hands of where all the pretty young things are? Where are the pretty young things? Okay, I want that kind of a welcome for Durjoy Datta and Ravinder Singh and of course Preeti Shenoy. The woos!
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you all for coming out to our session today. I must tell you that I'm one of the most nervous kind of moderators possible. And I recall the first Lit Fest that I attended, which was 2 years ago. I woke up at 5 in the morning, sat on my terrace, meditated for an hour, and was still nervous. For today, I slept till 7 o'clock. Because I know I don't have to do a thing. I just have to sit and let them talk. If they don't talk also, this will be a successful session. Because that's the kind of success our authors are. I would like to start with a slightly serious note, and this is basically a book that Preeti Shenoy has written. On the aside, when you buy the book, please note that it's also dedicated. I mean, I've been thanked in it, which is a huge thing for me. I've been dancing around seeing my name in print. This is a little departure from Preeti's normal style of writing. This is a very scientifically taken on task, delving into, a lot of these aspects of modern day romance. So Preeti, why don't you tell us a little about your book?
Okay, before I start, I must say, Nandita first asked, can we have a show of hands of pretty young things? And then she said, this is the kind of welcome I want for Durjoy and Ravinder. And there was a slight pause. She said, and Preeti Shenoy, she said.
Should I do it?
Because you belong to this city, so we are the ones who are intruding. And by the time while she was meditating, the two of us were just drunk in our room.
So, anyway, so welcome to Bangalore, both of you, since it's my city. And I would like to start by telling you all a little bit about my book. Nandita said, on a serious note, but I'm never serious. The book does deal with serious issues, though. It's a non-fiction book on relationships. So the book has very interesting sections. It has 7 sections. It starts with, one where the first one is finding the one. Everyone wants to get hitched. So it has topics like why we cannot help whom we fall in love with. There might be 100,000 people in the crowd, but we'll go fall for that one person who is generally unavailable. Either he'll be married, or that person won't know you exist, or he'll be out of your league. So why is it? Why is it that, is there any reason behind falling in love for that one person? I think Durjoy's character or Ravinder's character might, like to read that.
No, my characters look for once.
Once, but now you're rich, let's fall in love, so why? So why is it, why do they fall? So it's explained in a scientific, psychological way. Playing hard to get. How Tinder changed Valentine. Very relevant for all of us there. So I was attending a humor show the other day. So there was this 14-year-old girl in the audience, and she had come with her dad. And then the guy comes on stage and he asks, do you know what is Tinder? So the father says no, and he looks away. And the girl says yes, and she looks away too. She said, you've come to my show with your 14-year-old and you don't know what's Tinder? She said, no, I don't know what's Tinder. He said, Tinder, sir, is like Uber, but for sex. That's what he said. So I mentioned that in the essay as well. So they're all very light-hearted essays. Then there's one on getting hitched. How to tell if someone is too old or too young for you. Does marriage take away your freedom? The 3-year itch in marriages. Earlier it used to be 7-year itch. Now it's a 3-year itch. When things go wrong. How to deal with a broken heart. Why breakups hurt so much. Because I get mails from thousands of readers who ask me, they're just devastated with a breakup. How do you move on from a breakup? Then there's another section on men and women. Why women love high heels. Is casual sex worth the effort? Why flirting is good for you. Why space is important in a relationship. Let's talk. That's another section. How anger affects relationship. Why respect is important in a relationship. Why is it important to express what you feel? How often should you message a person you fancy? I find young guys on my WhatsApp, the moment they are in a relationship, they turn off the blue ticks. Because they say we don't want the person to know when she has, otherwise my girlfriend eats my head. Have you read my message? You haven't replied to me. So these are I'm just reading out some of the interesting topics. Then there's 3 to tango. All the married people in the audience. Can finger length predict propensity to cheat? Are we genetically programmed to stray? I can see an interest on a lot of people's faces. So I've dealt with things like that. Then the last section is on sex and the Indian woman, sex and the Indian teen. What turns you on?
Sounds like a modern day Kama Sutra.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not Kama Sutra at all, because this is a section which is so relevant.
So no matter what it definitely is going to be a bestseller. I can see that, and probably we should just go back to our places.
It already debuted on Nielsen. It already debuted in the top 10. It's already come.
But that topic definitely.
Yeah. So this is a really interesting book, which a lot of research has gone into it. A lot of real life examples. So that's what my latest book is all about. And the reason I took so long to explain is completely different from my other books.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, Preeti. So I basically felt that, given that we have these stars here, let's try to have as light a session as possible. And I've kind of, in my head, divided it into 3 parts. So the first part, we are going to be very good fest speakers, and we will speak about new age romantics and what it means to us and how romantic each of us are and things like that, tips that you can take away from us. The second part is when I would just ask questions which I know all of you want to ask. Whenever we have authors of this kind of stature and success in our midst, we want to pick their brains a bit. So I'll do that. And the third part, will be for all of you to ask questions. Fine? Nobody claps, nobody says yes, not bad, not good. Okay, the first thing I'm going to try and establish is what exactly does new age romantics mean. So in my head it was like new is Durjoy Datta, age is me, and these are the romantics, But still we'll try and figure out what it really means to each of us.
So when you say the new age romance, by default we are comparing it with the old age ones. That becomes a benchmark out there. I didn't live in that era of old age romance, so hence I can't even compare. But what I read from it and the way I would put the new age romance is the movement of love at first sight to love at first like, and on love at first comment. The whole evolution of the digital era, wherein you don't even need to be in the physical proximity of someone, and yet you just sink in that abyss of love, before even getting to know someone. It has made a long-distance relationship workable in many conditions. In many conditions, it's a big threat because of the distraction that brings. However, this chaos is very interesting. I would term it as a beautiful chaos. That's a new age romance. People make their choices, find out their ways out, and that's the beauty of this.
Sorry. Beautiful chaos seems to be a beautiful way to describe love. So you're a poet at heart, sir. Durjoy, may I have your comments?
So first thing I want to start with is that for how many more years do I have to be new? Because I've been writing for the last 7 years, and every time there's an article about me, it's like young and upcoming writer. Like
he's 28.
Like I'm in an elevator which never reaches its destination. I'm still upcoming.
He's 28. I have saris in my cupboard that are older than him.
Okay, I can't top that. but yeah, so romance for me, see the kind of, in my head, how romance has changed over the years. I've never been in an old-fashioned romance where you are totally dedicated to one person and you're blind to everyone else. So I have always been in relationships that are always a little screwed up, because I started getting into relationships in like 2008 or something, and I had lost a lot of time because I was morbidly obese for majority of my life. So when I got into my first relationship, I was like, shit, am I doing the right thing? There's so many other women that are like smart and intelligent. So should I get into this relationship? So I never had this concept of old romance, because old romance means that the villains in your romance will probably be your parents or probably be your economic strata. But now the biggest villain of your relationship is you yourself. So that is where it's changed, because earlier maybe it's just what I think, that the number of distractions that you had in a relationships were considerably lesser. So when you say that I'm finding my one in the world, right now you meet so many people that you might find your one today, but 5 years later you might find someone else. Earlier in the day, probably it was not possible. So my idea, if you get down to comparing new age romance with old age romance and say that old age romance was so much more romantic, I disagree, because if you can still have a relationship that's going for 10 years and 15 years after all these distractions, I'll probably say that you're doing extremely, extremely well.
Thank you. Preeti?
So, whenever Nandita asks a question, I'm going to say, I've dealt with this in the book, because I really have. So, one of the essays in the book is our love for someone immortal? So, I'm going to give a small spoiler there. The essay ends with the line, love lasts forever and ever, but sometimes the partner changes.
So coming to, I have a question for Durjoy. The way you define the new era and the concept of short-term relationship, because there is always a distraction and you are the villain. And when you say that, hats off to those when the journey of this companionship goes and surpasses, say, a decade or 2 or 3, or does that mean that, what happens to the concept of marriage then? Because marriage, the whole proposition is that I've done my entire homework and this is what I'm going to live. So in your thought process with this fundamental, where exactly do you see the school of marriage then, in the new age romance?
I think you get married because your parents want you to get married. Like, that's the only reason. If you were living in an ideal society where there's no parental pressure, women and men are treated as the same. So even if the relationship breaks down, the woman can sort of lead her own life and the guy can move on. I think people will stop getting married. Like, I see absolutely no point
in getting married.
Yeah,
and yet you will get married.
Yeah, because
your parents push you to get married.
There are 500 other relatives who will keep asking you for the rest of your life that when are you getting married, and then there'll be question that are you gay. So to counter that, you'll have to get married someday.
I tend to agree with Durjoy here, because I do see a trend where young people don't want to get married. In fact, I'm coming back to say I've dealt with that in the book as well. Because I would say some time back, say 10 years back or 15 years back, one didn't really have a choice. You do your 12th, you do your graduation, or either get into IIT or become a doctor, and then you have your career and then you get married. But today people are consciously making a choice to not get married. I've met many young people who say we don't see any sense in marriage, exactly like what he said. Because, whatever they're getting from a marriage, they're getting outside a marriage, so they don't see any reason to lose their freedom. So it is true. The trend is very much there. I agree with him. Because when you're getting married, you lose your freedom. And that sucks big time for someone who just wants to, pack their bags and go. And
I love to answer my own questions. So I would just kind of try to jump in here and try to define New Age romance along with you guys as well. I actually feel that the social structures, which is something that you're talking about also, the social structures that supported romance, or even the geographies that supported romance in the past, do not hold water for today. The geographies have changed, the communication patterns have changed. So we have to redefine what love means, and that's what I would come to. Don't take marital advice from Durjoy Datta. And the other thing I'll also say, which is again a counter to what you're proposing, the only flaw I see with this argument is that at the bottom of the heart of everybody who feels like this, there is a mild envy when they see the togetherness of somebody else, because there are definitely patches of loneliness.
All these people have seen this. They have been envious of something.
I'm sure all the people clapping are the married people. While all the single people aren't clapping.
Or those who have successfully taken a decision to stay away from marriage. They just give it back to the parents.
Having said that, I would love a big wedding. Because
of your own?
We are all invited.
That's a big question.
Because there's a cocktail party that's really fun. Then you get to do those awkward dances in the Sangeet. And then you see all your old relatives dancing. I think that's really good. I really like big weddings.
So this is something that Durjoy said, so I'll come straight to that. This feeling that once you have said, I love you to somebody, it's like you've walked into a cell and kaching, the jail block door closes behind you. How do we counter that feeling, within, I'm asking all of you for your opinion and advice.
Yeah, I think in the initial stages of a relationship, it's all that passionate, intense, great, fantastic love where you can't wait to talk to that person, you're messaging that person throughout. I would say, let's see. And then as the relationship progresses, when you're talking about marriage, as the relationship progresses, it all depends on whether you both have grown together or not. Because we change, every incident that happens to us changes us. I'm not the same person I was 5 years back. I won't be the person I am 5 years hence. So if you and your partner have grown together parallelly, then hand in hand, then your marriage lasts. But if you have grown at different paces, if you have grown this way and your partner has grown this way, there's no way your marriage will last, it will break up. So it is a constant effort, it is a lot of work. And I think it all depends on how much are you willing to trade in, what are you willing to trade in, because at the end of the day, it is a huge trade in. You're trading in your freedom, what you want to do, in exchange of, okay, I don't want to be lonely, I want companionship. I want someone to come home to. I want someone who means everything to me. So to me, it's all a balance of that, And it again depends on individual mindsets.
Ravinder, who's in a fairly new, fairly passionate, fairly intense marriage right now, is like dying to say something. Right?
How do you know my marriage is intense enough?
I read about you. I read a lot about you.
I agree with Preeti when she said she is not the same person what she used to be 5 years back. And my current thought process is quite different from the one that I carried when I was writing my debut novel, I Too Had a Love Story. It's an emotional one. It's an outcome of a personal tragedy. And back then I thought, this is it. This is where the love story of my life ends. And it's left incomplete. I need to complete it by writing it. I would confess that what I've written in this book at that point in time was the truth of the moment back then, 7 years back. And then I shifted from a small town of this country like Odisha to a metropolitan like a Delhi NCR. I was in a very different world altogether. And I could see and I could compare the difference between a small town romance versus a big city romance. For the very first time, I was influenced to this. Relationships last longer in the small towns out there. Over here, it has become a fashion, I had 3 ex-girlfriends. It has become a fashion statement. Not that I say what is right or what is wrong, but I'm just telling you what I got to know. A lot of things influenced my mind, and I realized that as human beings, we are evolving on a daily basis, and so are our relationships. At one point in time, I would reject that, hey, infidelity is a crime because that's how we have perceived, And then someone put me this question. Of course, you have a preconceived notion, and we all are conditioned. And I was watching this short movie by Dibakar Banerjee. The name of this movie was Ahalya. And how Ahalya happened to, make love to Indra, who is a disguised person. And I was just quantifying who is wrong at what point in time. And I realized that what these people are talking about today had been talked about ages back. At least there had been stories, and this is nothing new, just a new concept out there. The whole subject dwells down to, I have got this one life. I don't know whether I lived in 1800s or I fought the battle of the freedom movement, or will I take birth again. I just know this is my one life. I want the best out of it. If I put a character in my book who says, I'm married to someone else, but then I feel something very different for someone else, do I have the right to express myself? Am I criminal just to think about this or take a step in the physical world and get associated with this person? In the mass, we can go and say, this is wrong, his crime, oh, look what he's talking. But in a very neutral stand, if I think about what's going in the mind of that particular person, or for example, the whole issue of homosexuality, I find it very difficult why people do not understand that a man could carry the same feeling for another man, and you are keeping him away from the joy of his life, from the love of his life forever. Imagine you being denied. Imagine me being denied a companionship of a girl, and he feels exactly the same. So off late, in this evolution, I'm thinking a lot, and from the negativity, I've actually brought this whole conversation into neutral, at least in my mind, and trying to evaluate what it means to feel this stuff. Yeah.
I think
Long
now
answer.
Ravinder is talking like a married man.
But in a subtle way.
Just like Preeti plugs her book once in a while, I'm going to plug my latest book. You know, and I'm joking. You know, it's about an extramarital relationship. And the concept of infidelity, I never use that word. And I'll come back to it after they've answered to say why I don't use the word infidelity. But because I'm sitting here, I'm throwing it out to you. What do you think of infidelity in today's world?
So for me, I'm very old-fashioned that way. I feel infidelity is unforgivable. It is the death knell of your relationship. I mean, you're in a relationship, you have committed to be with that person. You have feelings for some other person. Either squish those feelings or squish your relationship. You know, my stand on infidelity is very clear. It's unforgivable. Yes, you will be attracted. You will be attracted. There will be times when you will feel something for someone else, but you don't have to act on those attractions, saying that, oh, I'm getting carried away. If you are getting carried away, that means there is something fundamentally wrong in your relationship with your spouse, which you need to address. So my stand on that is very clear. My characters do have extramarital affairs. If you guys want to know what they do, go read my books.
So Durjoy, he's now thinking cocktails theek hai, sangeet theek hai, uncles dancing theek hai, but I'm never going to marry. If this is the way Preeti thinks.
Not really. See, I basically, from my very first book, I basically have a problem of people saying that, okay, love is going to be this. Like, my longest relationship is with a girl who doesn't know that I exist. Like, it was a 6-year-long crush, and I had imagined everything with her. Like, she's going to get married, but then her husband is going to be abusive. She'll have 2 kids, but she'll come back to me and we'll get married. And then I'll tell her that I've been in love with her for 6 years. And a lot of, when we try to quantify love, we say that, okay, that love is better because that lasted these many years. And that love is not, they broke up. So it's not love. Because I still believe that, you know, even if you are with a person for 6 weeks or 6 days, if you feel that passion, it's still a love story. It's still a great love story. Just because I lasted more years with someone does not make it the best love story of my life. So even if I'm in a relationship with someone, but I have had a better relationship in the past with someone, I'll say that that's a better love story. So, and coming back to infidelity, my characters have cheated in all my books. Like, they have
Heavily driven from real life instances.
I'm a nice guy, dude. I don't do that.
I didn't talk about your real life. I talked about someone else's real life. Chor ki daadi mein.
No. I have no dadi.
Oh God, this is getting to be here.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
So see, as far as I'm concerned, even if you cheat on somebody, you can still be madly in love with the other person. Like, it's after all, infidelity, if obviously that the other person gives you more in terms of, you know, conversations and how you have the relationship with her, then it's a different thing. But otherwise, it's just a mistake. I know it's a very grave mistake, but you can still be in love with the earlier person, and you can continue to be in love with the other person.
No, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, you know, because even my characters cheat. My characters have extramarital affairs. Because at some point your relationship is evolving. Infidelity has existed ever since the institution of marriage has. And, you know, thou shalt not commit adultery. That's the only commandment in the Bible that is repeated twice. Once for thinking about it, once even thinking about it is supposed to be a sin, and once for actually doing it. So it's been this huge stigma, but that doesn't work in real life. I mean, everyone knows that infidelity has existed. Ashley Madison is a classic example. There's so many people on the site wanting to have an affair. So it has existed. So that is a reality, you know. And I guess our books reflect that reality.
I think I've said what I wanted to say, but I was playing devil's advocate and trying to think, and the whole, this term infidelity even exists, and it means that when you're cheating, I would love, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I would love that we reach an era wherein spouses can be open about the fact that, this natural thing is just coming to my head. At least they can talk about it. And once that at least they can share their thoughts and point out that it naturally comes to me the way it came to me 10 years back or 2 years back when I met you for the very first time. At least talk about it. And if we can be that open, then it won't be called cheating. It won't be called infidelity. And can we reach to that matured stage wherein people in relationship can at least talk about this with their partner and their spouses, For some reason, I'm getting attracted to that particular person and individual. And the other person should understand, should be matured enough to understand that it's possible. But do you want to work out our relationship? When people are not open about it, and I'm talking about an imaginary world, I hope that comes, and that comes very fast, just to eradicate of this word called cheating or infidelity.
No, I think if that comes, Durjoy will get married tomorrow.
You're getting married pretty soon. But that's a very ideal situation you're talking about, because one of the things that come with love is that you start to become possessive of this person.
Yeah, exactly.
And no matter if you look like Rajpal Yadav, if your girlfriend is attracted to Hrithik Roshan, you'll feel bad about it.
Absolutely.
Poor Rajpal Yadav, you just...
No, I agree with Durjoy, because with love comes possessiveness.
With that, we've started the second largest controversy of Bangalore Lit Fest. Yeah, carry on.
No,
I didn't say anything.
It is really difficult to feel non-possessive, because one of the things about love is I'm yours and you're mine, When you completely surrender to that person, because that is what a great relationship is all about. I would be very happy if what Ravinder said came true, because that's the ideal relationship. That is fantastic, where you can be open enough and go tell your partner that, hey, you know what, I'm really attracted to this guy. That I would say is fabulous. If your relationship has evolved to that level, there's nothing like it. I would hope for that, like he hopes for it.
Utopia.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
I said I would come back to why I don't use the word. I think it's a judgment, And it's not a race that everybody starts from the same starting line, has the same background, has the same. So I think it's an extremely, extremely personal choice. And as an outsider, you are no one to say it. And if you yourself are doing it, you're not going to say that, look, I'm an infidel. You won't say that. So it's, it's one of the ways by which we judge other people's actions. And therefore, that's a term. I always feel that whoever is engaging in whatever, they have very strong justifications for why they're doing it. And it's not my business. So one of the things that I was told when I was given this panel is that the three of them are extremely good friends. And I was, this was a little naughty question in my head. Is there a question about romance you wanted to ask each other? As a romance writer, as the person you know.
Nothing that I...
No, I think we know each other so well.
Yeah. I can rather give answers on their behalf, because I know what they are going to answer probably at times. I can't think of any question as such.
Because I know what Ravinder is like. Ravinder is like Ram.
Oh!
He'll follow his loved one to the grave.
Okay.
So I know everything about him. I know about Preeti, so... And they know about me. So.
Okay, this is a conversation that I should not be talking out, but I have to tell you about this because, that just made me fall in love with Durjoy Datta. I'm still waiting for somebody, to hold a placard saying, Durjoy, marry me, it's not happening. But I'll just tell you a little more about Durjoy. So I'm trying to tell them how I was thinking of having this session, and they were not interested because they are, practiced speakers, I think, all of them. And then Durjoy says, see, the serious questions, you throw to these two, I'm the item number. So that's Durjoy Datta, and I kind of completely loved that. Anything else you would want to add on the topic of, new age romance? How do you see it as a writer? What do you think you're addressing when you're writing?
So I would say that when you say new age romance, I would say technology has permeated every aspect of our lives, including relationships. It has changed the way we love. It has changed the way we connect. It has, see, for example, if you compared it, say, 15 years back, it was very difficult to have an affair. Because if you had to have an affair, you have to go to that dial-up phone, call up. Then there are no mobiles, right? So how do you meet that person? Today it's very easy. Take out your phone, quietly message that person. You can have an affair sitting in India with someone in Japan or someone in US or whichever country you choose. And also it is a boon. Today Skype is God. For people in long distance relationship, Skype is God, WhatsApp is probably the goddess or whatever. So it has changed. So I would say new age relationships have been heavily influenced by technology, and I don't see that necessarily as a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's a great thing, in fact.
As somebody who is, slightly older, this thought comes to me that whenever there was something going wrong between a couple or even, a romantic couple who had not married or whatever, in our times we used to say communication theek se nahi ho raha. They need to communicate. Now there is no barrier to communication. I mean, you can communicate in 55 different ways. Why are there still problems in relationships? Would you like to take that, Ravi?
I can definitely talk about one aspect of it, and it's not about just the problems. I was talking about the difference between a small town romance versus a metro culture romance. And I'm talking about the pros and cons of things. One good thing that's happening continuously is more and more women are getting independent in today's world. There was a time wherein everything was dependent on what the guy thinks, the way he will think. The woman is supposed to behave or move from one geography to other once she gets married. And even if she is doing her daily job, she would probably quit and in order to suffice all the necessities out there. But with women becoming independent, they are saying, yes, I agree to this proposition, and sorry, I do not agree. That I do not agree with this proposition. And instead of that, I'm also putting forth my demands and what I look forward from you in this relationship. So what I'm trying to say is that till the time one person has the authority, there was a bhed chal, theek hai, aise chal lete hain, Pati Dev ne ye kaha. And now women are taking stand. What about my life? What about my aspirations, And sorry, this doesn't work out. It's a pro. So I'm talking about pros and cons of things happening, and this is one reason why the longevity of the relationship has gone down. Having said that, do I wish that the time rolls back? No, I really want the women to be independent and have their say, because that's good for the country, that's good for society, that's good for each one of us out there. This is one aspect that has been changing in the small town versus the metro culture out there. And I'm glad that women are taking stand out there, yeah.
As far as communication is concerned and, relationships breaking down and stuff, I don't think logistics is the reason why love has changed. I think people have changed. People now want to be happy. So if I'm in a relationship, I'm not happy, I'll move out of it. And there's no taboo in it. Like, I can be in a 5-year-old relationship and people know that the things that have happened between you and that person, and you can still move out because you're not happy in that relationship. Earlier, when you moved out of a relationship, and I'm talking about like even 10 years back, people will be like, a lot of people know about us, that we have done things. I want to stay in this relationship even if I'm not happy. Now we care about ourselves first. If you're not happy, we'll move out. And that's a good thing. Like, people used to be stuck in relationships, and I've seen a lot of people still doing that. I can't move out because I've told my parents, I've told my friends, and I can't move out of this. Now we just care about ourselves. I have to keep myself first, and then the relationship. I define the relationship does not define me. That's what has changed.
I tend to agree with Durjoy on that, and I also tend to, one observation which I made is it's a lot more harder to break up these days. Because in the earlier days, you could break up, be done with it. There was no Facebook. Today, there's no way you can break up like that.
No, there's a Facebook feature now. So if you break up with an ex, and everything blocks.
Everything blocks.
The pictures.
But then it's very hard to resist checking out, what is that person doing? And she's having fun with that one. And then you're
But that's okay if the next boyfriend or the girlfriend is like a loser.
Or you can make them jealous by posting your pictures with someone attractive. That was never there earlier. Earlier you break up.
The only problem is just blocks on that website, doesn't block in your mind.
Exactly.
And if you are able to block that in your mind, that's nothing like it.
Yeah, I so agree.
Yeah, I think Ravin just hit the nail on the head, because both people don't fall out of love at the same time.
Yeah.
That is the tragedy, that, one person might phase out of a relationship and the other doesn't. That's what makes love so, traumatic. So, little heads up to the audience. I'm going to ask my last question and throw the discussion open to all of you, all the teeny boppers, all the pretty things, or all the romance readers who want to ask my gorgeous panel their questions. The last question, actually, I didn't prepare. I picked up from something Durjoy said. And it's very true that today, more and more, it is about ourselves. It's about the individual. And it's, everything is about ourselves and our journey. And love is, secondary to that. That's how we look at it. That, I won't say it's an ego thing. I would just say that that's how we look at ourselves. We don't sacrifice ourselves to a much larger notion. Do you find that, that kind of individualism somewhere affects a relationship?
Your question is to me? Or?
All of you.
See, I personally see it as a good thing because I've seen a lot of people, getting into a relationship and then losing that thing. They were different when they hadn't started dating, and then they changed to, sort of mold into someone the other person wants you to be. And that's very unsettling for me because, if the person fell in love with someone else and now you're changing, which means there's something wrong with it. And I don't think that, love is something that should define your life. You should define your life. And I don't think it's a question of being selfish. I think it's a question of your own happiness. And you should not depend on anyone else to sort of validate, okay, that now that you're in a relationship with me, this is what your life is going to be. I think if you're happy and if your partner is happy, you're going to make a much better couple. So I think that's changed for the good. I think people should think about themselves even when they are in a relationship. I think that's an awesome way to go about a relationship.
So I tend to think that it also depends on the intensity or the understanding that you have with your partner. See, you might find someone who is perfect in every way. You might have gone through 2 relationships, 3, 4, 5, or whatever. Your 6th relationship might be that, where you are in sync, where you have the same wavelengths. And then you're willing to go the extra mile. You would have never thought that I would do this for that person. But you find yourself doing that because that person means that much to you. So it also depends on the kind of relationship you have and what you feel for that person, how much you're in sync with that person's thoughts. Because sometimes when you get into a relationship thinking that's the best thing, then a few months later you find that's not truly the best thing. So if you're finding a person, if you're finding your perfect soulmate, so to say, then you're willing to do a lot more. You're willing, because you find that it is so precious to you that you're willing to compromise on what you thought you would never compromise on.
It would be easier if I could have the same thought process that Durjoy mentioned, but somewhere I think, at what cost, why ruin someone else's life? Something in me bothers me, and logically he's right, but I don't know what it is, and I can't be dishonest to people that I would rather put that person and that face that, why you ruined my life? What about your commitment and your promise? Because then if I walk out of one thing today, I'm also giving a signal to other person, I'm not going to last longer with you. I'll move on from you to somebody else out there. I wish I could, and there's no right or wrong answer. And I don't know why I'm saying so, but it's more coming from the heart than from my mind. My mind would agree with what Durjoy talked about, yeah. End it there.
Yeah, I guess, it's different, It's a different game for each person. It's who you are and what you're looking for out of life. Yeah. And also the stage of life you are in. True. You are talking as this, happy bachelor, and who's really, really, really right now still, in the explorative stage. And he's the one who's got tired of that, who's tired of being alone, and he's in a relationship that's really fulfilling him. So, there would be a kind of, and that's how, the panel being diverse gives you diverse viewpoints. Still no marry me Durjoy Dattas? How sad, yeah. Y'all are disappointing me, Bangalore. Okay, questions, please. And, okay, so when you stand up, mics, who has the mics? Yeah, so the format we would really appreciate is if you stood up, told us your name, told us who you're addressing the question to, and then asked the question. Thank you.
Yeah, hi to all of you. I'm Tanvi. I have this question. I mean, I want to give it in general, mostly to Durjoy. I have one thing that I feel that the word love in itself, when we say I love you, it's like it's become so like a cliche. Anything, oh, I love you. Anybody, oh, I love you. Everything, it's so much like the depth it doesn't have the depth of the feelings that the word actually shares with it. So what do you have to say in that? Are we losing, the intensity of the word love in itself?
I don't think a word should sort of define what you're feeling. If you are in love with that person will know anyway. You should not wait for the time that, this person has said, I love you to me, so now things have changed. You would have known anyway that the things have changed, that you're not in a fling anymore, you're not in a normal, you're not friends anymore, there's something more. It's probably just, for some people, it's just that, okay, now he has said he loved me, so now we are in a relationship. But you already know that you're in a relationship. Stop fooling yourself. And earlier, when I was in 5th or 6th, I remember that a girl started crying because a guy told her that I love you. And the girl was like, you can't say that to me. But now it doesn't matter because people are smarter and people know that, okay, this is where it's going. So whenever the time comes, it's something like, you see in a lot of English movies that the guy is finally going down on a knee. And you know that this it's going to happen. It's just that happiness of that moment, that is the reason why you attach so much importance to it. Otherwise, the word itself doesn't mean anything.
I'm Ranjana Ajmani, and I would like all the audience to give a big round of applause for Preeti, because she made this statement that infidelity is unforgivable. I would recommend all the young generation and older, everybody to read her book. And I'll definitely do. Please, all of us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Neha, and I have a question to all three of you. That like most romance books that we read, somehow like whatever I have read so far, most of it has a male as a the romantic character. Like he would plan the dates, he would do most of those mushy stuff and all. Why female characters are not shown as that? That's generally, I might be wrong, but most of the times this is what happens, and then the female waits, okay, my guy will do this for me, or like my partner would do that for me. So I really wonder, that why the male dominance is there.
So I want to answer that question. I would say read my books. All my books have a female protagonist falling in love, mothers falling in love. It happens like in real life. Tea for Two and a Piece of Cake was about a young girl who found love, her Mr. Milson Boone hero kind of a guy, who dumps her after 8 years stranded with 2 kids. That's what Tea for Two and a Piece of Cake was about. Secret Wishlist was about a woman trapped in an unhappy marriage. The One You Cannot Have is written from the point of view of a young man. Because people ask me this, why do you always write about women characters? So I think, my books wouldn't fall in the category which you say where only the guy is, doing stuff and guy is the romantic. My books are not like that. My last book, V, is a young girl who gets pregnant out of wedlock. She gets pregnant at 18 and she decides to keep the baby. So my books are very different. So
at this point, I would like to applaud you for coming for the Lit Fest with a baby. Yeah. Congrats and thank you so much, because this is the kind of audience we hope to attract. I also think you're not reading a very healthy mix of love stories. Yeah. Because most strong women romance writers write women-centric stories. Yes. So, you just have to browse a little more. It's all there. This is the best time in India to be, a reader or a writer.
It's not about women writer also. If I point out, the last book that I wrote, the guy doesn't have the guts to even propose a girl, and she's the one who takes the lead and goes ahead to say, and because someone said love has become such a cliche, she says, will you make my dreams yours? That was her line to propose him. So I think a good mix of love story. And a lot of the ones that you have read is also driven by what's happening in reality, and with all this feminism thing going on, there is a counterpart of it which is also going on in couple of. So a lot of my readers happen to say, why should I foot the bill of the first date? Why can't it be the women who does that? That is one point. Why should, when I'm just getting out, so chivalry is one subject, but why should I ask my lady to step first? If this is happening in real life, the books that you will end up reading will drive heavily from these stuff that's happening in real life. Thank you.
And since they have deflected it, I'll deflect it as well. Because my male protagonists, they're all dumb losers. And my women are extremely strong. So my guys have to do stupid shit like flowers and stuff like that to impress them. That's the only reason why they do the mushy stuff. Thank you.
Hi everyone. My name.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Aditi. I want to take us back to what we said about liking one person, a different person while you're already in a relationship with one person. So we talked about cheating, but what I want to know is your views on polyamory, which would mean being in love with more than one person at the same time. Everything being consensual, all right? No cheating, no hiding, no deception at all. So what I'd like to know is your views on it as a general thing, maybe as an idea, and if it's not too personal, whether you think you could do it, something like that.
Whom was your question to?
If we
Anyone who has the guts to answer that one.
Okay, I would love to answer it, which is why I asked who is the question.
Yeah, even I would love to answer. So let me just start it, and then you can take it forward. See, I believe this. Humans are polygamous in nature, right? Both, and I'm not saying men only. I'm talking about women only, because when they happen to read the love stories, they write back to me, and then they're asking me advice in real life because they are already married and falling in love with someone else. I tell them back, I just write romance. I'm not a love guru, right? But having said that, and this is driven by what they write to me, both boys and girls, men and women. And I believe that humans, we have come from animals, and somewhere everything has remained intact. We are polygamous in nature. The point now is, the question is, can one person be in love with two different people? Well, if I look back over the period of time when we say I had an ex-girlfriend or a boyfriend, of course you did happen to fall in love with many people. But now the question comes, can it happen at the same time? क्या एक म्यान में दो तलवारें रह सकती हैं? And then I could recollect then what used to happen when so many kings have so many wives at that point in time in every religion across. And I thought of Draupadi for the very first time because she was the only woman who had five more than one husband. How would she dealt at that point in time? It wasn't definitely love because the mother-in-law say baant lo to. But then today, in today's time, can one person be in love with many people? My answer is yes. But the problem is, in majority of the cases, the second thing is only an attraction. And it's not pure love. And my litmus test to do this would be, can I make equal sacrifices for both the people? And if you ask yourself this question, I think many times people say, no, I can't do this. Of course, I love him so much, or love her so much, but I'm not willing to make these sacrifices for that particular person. And that, in my mind, so far, safely is my litmus test to differentiate love with an attraction, no matter how strong that is. But I still believe that one person can be in love with many people. However, majority of the cases, these are attractions. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon.
I would like to add to that. Sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just, because you also asked that whether we would do it, I can't deal with it. Like, I can't have my girlfriend falling in love with other people or even being attracted to other people, and neither will I. Even if I am attracted to that person, I'll never say it to my girlfriend because I know it would kill her, and it will kill me. Like, it doesn't matter who she attracts. She could be attracted to fucking George Clooney. I don't care. She should not be attracted to anyone other than me. So I personally can't deal with it.
So I would like to answer that question. So when you say polyamory, you don't have to be in love with that person. Polyamory just means you want to have sex with multiple partners.
That is even worse.
Okay, no. And she asked me what it is. But it might be worse, and I'm not making a judgment. But if both partners are accepting of it, See, there might be a couple where the guy wants to have polyamory, the woman doesn't want to. There might be another couple where the woman wants to have polyamory, the guy doesn't want to. So if both are in sync, who are we to judge? That is worse, this is good, this is bad. There are two individuals, there are two consenting adults who have agreed that this is the path which our relationship is going to take. And both are open about it, both are okay with it. And I agree with Ravinder when he says that it is possible to feel attracted. You might want to sleep with someone else even if you are in a committed relationship. But what are you going to do to act on it? And your promise has been, when I believe in, I'm quite old fashioned that way, I believe in keeping up the promise that you made. If you have promised your man to be faithful, to love him, no matter what, whether he puts on weight, whether he loses a job, or, you are going to be there for him. Even if the man has promised to love you through sickness, after your childbirth, you might lose your figure, you might become fat, you might completely change. But if both are there for each other, then that's all what matters. And if both have agreed to have a polyamorous relationship, fantastic. I would say, oh wow, I envy them.
This is so exciting that I have to jump in for 1 second. First, where do you find two guys to love here? It's so difficult to even find one. So two people who are pulling you at the same time, you're blessed if it happens to you. But let me come to it on a serious note. I think we always mistake, particularly in our younger days, we mistake mating rituals for love. So mating is completely, it's animalistic and it's completely different. Love, by the time you reach my age, is something that you radiate. You radiate it to the trees, you radiate it to your pets, you radiate it to your family, you radiate it to anybody in your orbit, So I don't think that we are really, there is no, you can just radiate it, and there could be many people who pick up your signal just like we pick up, the radio signals. One last question, please.
Right.
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name's Amber. There's something which Mr. Datta said which caught my ear. You didn't get into relationships until quite recently because you were morbidly obese. So keeping that in context, my question to the panel is, what place do you think physical attractiveness holds in the ideal of love today?
See, my last book, World's Best Boyfriend, is about a girl who's slightly on the heavier side, and she has a skin problem. But I'm telling you this from my personal experience, that when I was fat, the problem wasn't with them not finding me attractive. The problem was with me not finding myself attractive to other people.
Oh my God.
I was like, I'm so fat. I was so conscious of the way I look that I couldn't even start a conversation with people.
So like a fear of rejection before it started.
If I had the confidence, I would have gone up. I would have probably impressed whoever I wanted to. Maybe I could have been funny to them, smart to them, but I did not give myself the chance. So the important part is to be in love with yourself before you expect other people to fall in love with you. So of course it does play a role that you're physically attracted to other people, but I don't think it's the defining thing. Like, physical attraction wears off really quickly. It wears off within the first 5 minutes. Okay, you go talk to some girl and she's like a wall. You can't talk to her any longer. You'll move back, or you'll probably just have an intimate relationship with her, but you'll never talk to her again. But if you're a really interesting person, it doesn't matter how you look. So that's what I feel.
Okay, I would just like to answer that in one line. I married a very handsome guy. So I think that answers where I stand on, physical attraction.
Do I have to answer that? Yes. Okay. I would answer it the way, why do you fall in love with someone, or why do you get attracted? For
married a beautiful woman.
Many of the qualities. One of them could be attraction for someone. For others, it could be different, maybe the ability or what exactly, or her thought process, or all these reasons. Attraction is one. The looks are one reason, and of course, if that can hold true. However, if your entire relationship is based only on this one lever, it's going. The lever will be pulled at one point in time, and God save you at that point in time, because you really need to develop something beyond this at that point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravin. Thank
My
you,
pleasure.
Preeti. Thank you, Durjoy. I think this has been the one session I've
Thank you to the
enjoyed.
wonderful people of Bangalore readers out there. Can we just
Fabulous
have it for
audience.
yourself?
You guys have been a great audience.
Fabulous. I have just loved this interaction. I would just have two small appeals. One is pray for Chennai. Don't just pray. A lot of our friends in Chennai are going to suffer post-traumatic stress disorder. They would always, this would be a really, really bad experience of their lives. Talk to them, hold their hands, love them. The other thing is, Atta Galata bookstore, please buy all of our books. We are willing to sign them for you. Take selfies with all your favorite authors. Enjoy the Lit Fest, make it a success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nandita. Thank you, Nandita, for doing part of my job. That really solves it. But I just want to ask you, audience, I hope you have had all your love problems fixed. I mean, between 3 bestseller authors.
We added to the chaos.
But I can only say it will be happy chaos. Thank you, each one of you, writer, and of course, Nandita, for putting out that special message for Chennai that is so much needed. While you walk out, while you also have your lunch, remember that there is also a World War I exhibition going on. And that is to my left here. It's also put together by one person who's a Bangalorean. And that, Surekha and Siddhartha. So you can actually find all the exhibits relating to the First World War, to the